In my last video, I discussed how characters like the children of Horus, the lotus they stand on, Thoth, and Anubis all had mystical connections to the Americas. And I'm finishing the scene with Osiris and Isis, but first we start with one of the most important archaeological discoveries of the century. San Bartolo North Wall mural has been called the Sistine Chapel of the Maya. And although it is the oldest mural, it is also the most advanced artistically, and it pushes back in time the age of the civilization of the Maya. In this video, I'm going to focus on two characters in the mural that help complete the judgment scene and the mythical relationship between the Americas and Egypt. But first, we have to brush up on the origin of corn. America's First Civilization is a book by Michael Coe written in 1968 about the Olmecs. Here we have a basic timeline for Mesoamerica, starting at the top with the youngest Aztecs, the Maya and Teotihuacanes, and finally the Olmecs being the oldest and also magically appearing with a fully formed civilization already in possession of corn around 1200 BC. However, a few thousand years before that, in 5000 BC, during the Archaic period, we see the origin of corn agriculture, but no people associated with it, as if the corn planted itself. Well, you should know that corn does not plant itself. In fact, corn is unable to disperse its seeds because of the husks. So if there are no people to plant the corn, it does not grow wild. So wherever you see corn, there's also civilization. So back to the book, it says tiny corn cobs were found in Para Cave, which dated to 2500 BC. Very similar cobs also turned up in northern Mexico and the southern United States. All evidence points to a central Mexico origin. Added to this was one important piece of data. Pollen taken from a deep core under what is now Mexico City showed wild corn flourished in Mexico 80,000 years ago. Quite a claim, since wild corn was not supposed to exist. Here's the reference. This is from Botanical Museum leaflets from Harvard University. Ancient pollen from deep cores in Mexico City shows the ancestors of corn to be corn and not its relative teosinte. Apparently, these botanists disagree with the archaeologists that teosinte is the ancestor of corn because they found corn pollen that was 80,000 years old. While the Smithsonian thinks corn has a 9,000 year history. And notice these little corn cobs look like pine cones. So let's get back to Osiris and his myth. One version of the myth is set up just like the Lion King. Osiris is Mufasa, his brother Set is Scar, and Simba is Horus. Simba Horus seeks revenge against his uncle Set Scar for killing Mufasa, Osiris. Mufasa then takes on a role as a spiritual ancestor and Osiris as god of the underworld. But Osiris also has a softer and greener side that belongs to a different aspect. The culture hero, the bringer of civilization after the flood, the god of agriculture, the corn god. In The Golden Bowl, written in 1890, we read that Osiris is the personification of corn that may be said to die and come to life every year, a natural resurrection. He was said to be the first to teach humans to grow corn, and he was also said to have created corn from his own liquid or water. Yeah, that's not how you make corn. Although he doesn't have an animal head like Thoth or Anubis, his American connection can be seen in one of the symbols of the crook and flail. The shepherd crook stood for kingship and the flail for fertility of the land. Now you know why. Corn. Both symbols each have mystical titles. The title for the crook is the shepherd, even though he was not a shepherd. And now Osiris with his corn flail with the title of corn god, even though we know corn is from America. And finally, we have Almighty Isis. In the same book, the next chapter is dedicated to her, and it logically concludes that if her brother and husband was the corn god, then she must surely have been the corn goddess. Among the epithets by which Isis is designated in the inscriptions are creatress of green things, green goddess, lady of bread, lady of beer. The Greeks conceived of Isis as a corn goddess, for they identified her with Demeter. Accordingly, Greek or Roman artists often represented her with ears of corn on her head and in her hand. Before we saw her with a bird on her head, and here she is depicted with wings, which brings us back to the mural discovery in the jungle of San Bartolo in the Petén region of northern Guatemala. William Saturno, a NASA archaeologist, along with local guides, used NASA's remote sensing data to help locate a looter's tunnel dug through a temple pyramid. The looters had cut through a room with painted scenes around the upper parts of the inside walls. Unfortunately, the east and south walls were demolished in antiquity when the building was buried beneath an expansion of the temple. Since it was buried underneath the jungle without the NASA technology, the site appeared to be a hill. The most important and impressive part of the site is a structure called the Pyramid of the Paintings, which contains a dome building with beautifully painted polychrome murals depicting complex mythological scenes related to the maize god and the creation of the world. The murals discovered inside are from about 100 BC, making them the oldest yet known examples of Maya art. There are murals on two sides of the chamber, the kings on the left and the queens on the right. The colorful scene on the north wall shows a sacred landscape in black, white, and red, which also happen to be Atlantis colors. The sophistication of the art and the complexity of its iconography show that the Maya creation myth predates by several centuries the classic Maya murals of Bonampak we saw in the last video, dating from 790 AD. This site contradicts the idea that the most advanced art was created during the classic period. The oldest Maya writing was also found at this site, and here we can see a Maya tile from a different mural. Not all of the fragments from the destroyed murals were removed from the chambers during the ritual destruction. About 3,400 of them remained piled on the floor. It took 10 years, beginning in 2002, to excavate and collect them all. It took another 6 years for the team to reassemble them, and this painstaking process involved fitting the plaster fragments together like a jigsaw puzzle pieces and studying them using X-ray fluorescence. After reassembly, Dr. Heather Hurst recreated the Maya murals from the originals. Here we have a photo of the original Maya goddess from the cave on the left and Heather's brilliant recreation on the right. Here she resurrects the Maya corn god, who in this scene is accepting what looks like an African gourd from a kneeling subject. Let's take a look at the entire scene. Starting on the left, we have the depiction of a creation event. An exploding gourd brings forth 4 naked infants and a 5th wearing a headband and ear ornaments. Almost like Horus' 4 children, and the 5th baby in the center is the corn god. Next, we have a character wearing a feathered serpent headdress, maybe an incarnation of the feathered serpent. The next depiction is the mountain god known as Wits, whose gaping mouth also represents a cave. Animals, including a jaguar, an iguana, snakes, and birds, emerge between flowers and other plants surrounding Wits' mouth. This imagery suggests that the cave is an opening into a supernatural paradise known as Flower Mountain. This unique mountain and its corresponding sacred cave are believed to be the point of emergence and the secret hiding place of corn seeds. Remember, they really did find corn preserved in a cave. In front of the cave, a woman emerges holding a basket of holy food, the earliest known depiction of tamales, while in front of her, a kneeling man holds a gourd full of water above his head, food and water for humanity. The scene is dominated by the Maya maize god, who is standing and moving toward the viewer's left, looking over his shoulder at 2 kneeling female figures behind him. Behind the 2 women, standing tall, is his wife, the maize goddess, wearing a bird headdress followed by 2 Olmec-looking gentlemen who are painted red, wearing mouth coverings and bearing gifts. Did I say Olmecs? Well, it turns out the Olmecs also had a corn god in different ways to represent different parts of the corn. In this picture, you can see the corn gods side by side, and notice the Maya corn god does appear to have so-called Olmec traits. So the murals seem to suggest the Maya corn god is actually Olmec, which would be another interesting piece of history. So there you have it, the discovery of the best Maya mural and 5 corn gods. So what do you think? Does corn link the Egyptian and American corn gods? Or is it just a coincidence? Leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.